Tonight, as we've been hearing, the president is expected to reiterate his demand for a border wall. It is at the center of the political divide driving the ongoing government shutdown. But there are growing calls to get the government back open, including from the president's own party. I'm joined now by Republican Representative Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania. He served on the House Homeland Security Committee in the most recent Congress. Congressman Fitzpatrick, thank you very much for joining us. What's your take on how this shutdown has been going? What do you think it has accomplished?
No shutdown is good, and it hasn't accomplished anything, which is why we need to reopen the government, which is why I have and will continue to vote to keep to reopen our government and to keep it open. You know, these are very, very important debates on issues like immigration and border security and DACA, but we can't hold our federal employees hostage. Judy, and right now we have a scenario where the TSA screeners at airports, the air traffic control workers, are being furloughed. That makes our airways very unsafe. You have the CBP, the Border Patrol, and the Coast Guard, the three entities responsible for border security, who are not being funded and are furloughing people. That doesn't help us with border security. You have the FBI, my former colleagues and my old employer, who are furloughing people, having to make decisions of essential versus non-essential employees, which hurts their counterterrorism, counterintelligence, criminal and cybersecurity investigations. Government shutdowns are no way to run a country and no way to govern. We need to get the government open, and then we need to have full, transparent hearings on border security, on DACA, and have a bipartisan solution.
But as we were saying, you are a Republican, the President of the United States, a member of your own party. He's arguing that border security is such a problem for this country. He's calling it even a crisis, a security crisis, humanitarian crisis. He's saying that overrides right now the need to keep the government running.
Well, there's two issues there. The first is a legal question, specifically a constitutional law question. Article 2 of the Constitution and also Title 50 of the U.S. Code as to whether it meets that definition. I think if they were to go down that path, they would get tied up in litigation. The second question is that the path we should be going down? And I think what should happen is Congress ought to be making this decision. The reality is that the Democrats control the House, the Republicans control the Senate. This necessarily needs to be a bipartisan solution, as it should be. And what needs to happen is people need to start acting like adults. They need to come to the center. Nobody's going to get everything they want, but they got to be willing to sacrifice something to come up with a solution on border security, but do it when the government is open. This is no way to make decisions under circumstances like this.
But again, that is not the president's view. Have you made your thoughts known to the White House?
Yeah, I'm interviewing with every outlet that wants to talk to me, and I've made public statements, and my votes speak for themselves. I voted, there were 7 of us in the GOP caucus last week that voted to fund the government for the CR.
And so what do you think the cost of this is? I mean, some of us have been talking to people at the White House, talking to people very close to the president. I mean, they continue to say that, yes, we know it's an inconvenience, it's not good the government's closed down. But we believe, and I'm speaking of the White House and the president, we believe that it's more important to hold the government closed if necessary in order to get what we need to build a wall on the border.
I will tell you, we had this opportunity, Judy, 6 months ago. We had a moderate package, immigration reform package, which protected our DACA kids, which provided for very robust border security, and it didn't make it out of the House. That was our chance to do it, and there were a lot of people that didn't support it. But that's where we have to have that debate. You don't hold the federal workforce hostage, particularly, Judy, and the irony of this whole situation is we're defunding our border security apparatus on the border, all functions of DHS, all in the name of border security. We need to fund them and make sure that they're doing their job down there and have the debate once the government is open. That's what I believe.
What the president is saying is that his base, people who support him, are 100% behind him on this, that the vast majority of Republicans are with him on this. What are you hearing from your constituents?
I think people want the government to be open and to function, and they want bipartisan compromise. That's what the overwhelming majority of people in my district and the overwhelming majority of people in this country want. It's just like any relationship in our lives. We never get everything we want 100% of the time, whether it be personal relationships, business, financial. Government should be no different. Congress should be no different. And the unfortunate reality, Judy, this is being used, it's being politicized. And certain words in the legislative process become toxic. The term wall has become toxic in this debate because it conjures up images of a brick and mortar structure across all 1,900 miles of the border. That's not sensible. What the sensible thing to do is, from the border security standpoint, provide DHS with the funding, give them the discretion, give the experts, Border Patrol, CBP, and the Coast Guard, based on the sector, based on the terrain, what's appropriate. Along some sectors, physical barriers make sense. Under some sectors, technology makes sense. Heat sensors, motion detectors, infrared, aerial surveillance makes sense in different sectors. But let them make the decision. Let the experts make that decision rather than a one-size-fits-all solution.
But just quickly, as you know, the president continues to talk about a wall. He's now talking about a steel wall, but he's still talking about a structure along the entire border. Just finally, what do you want to hear from the president tonight?
Well, I want to hear the truth. I want to hear facts. I want to hear honesty, and I want to hear a willingness to compromise. That is the nature of government. That's the nature of governing. That's the nature of any relationship. We can't just dictate to people our way of thinking. You got to learn and be willing to compromise with other people who think differently. Border security is incredibly important, Judy. I'm the national chair of the Bipartisan Heroin Task Force that deals with the opioid crisis. Border security is a big, big component to dealing with that, but it's got to be a bipartisan solution. Everybody in our Problem Solvers Caucus, centrist Democrats, centrist Republicans, I'm a big believer in that caucus. We all want the same thing. We've come up with a solution of our own. I'd love for that solution to get offered and put on the floor. But that's the way forward. Myself, Jimmy Panetta, who's an amazing colleague of mine from California, came up with a perfect answer to this problem.
But just very quickly, yes or no, do you expect the president to offer a compromise tonight?
I hope so. We'll see what he says, but that's what I would like to see him do.
All right, Representative Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, thank you very much.
Thanks, Judy.